clay gnome. This is out of a simple homemade clay mixture that's just flour, salt, and water. It's super easy to make, and cleanup is a breeze because it can go straight down the sink without hurting anything. This is an adult program, but could be adapted for the whole family if you don't mind a little bit of mess. For this homemade clay recipe, we're going to be using 4 cups of flour, 1 cup of salt, then we're going to mix those together before you add in 1 3/4 cups of warm water. Warm water is important because it helps the ingredients mix together and hold together better. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And 1 cup of salt. Then we'll blend those till they're nice and even. This is also the time to get any of those clumps in your flour out. That'll make blending the clay and the water easier. Alright, that looks pretty good. And then we're going to do one and 3/4 cups of water. This is the fun part. It'll feel real gross and mushy at first, but then you'll see it start to blend together and make that kind of a Play-Doh feel. If you're the type of person who doesn't like getting messy, I would say to wear gloves during this part. But at the end, when it's all blended, it actually flakes off pretty well. We'll want to make sure that we're getting all of the sides and even the bottom to make sure that all of our flour and salt mixture is mixed in with the water. And now we've got our homemade clay. So for this project, you'll need your clay mixture that you just made, some toothpicks, a cup of water with a paintbrush, and some paper towels handy. Another good tip is to have some extra flour readily available in case your dough is still a little bit sticky. So the first thing is we're going to take a little bit of a chunk, roll it together really hard into a ball. Because this is a homemade dough, as it dries it has the potential to crack, and rolling it really hard into a ball first will help prevent that. So there's our little boulder, and we'll sit him down and kind of squish him into place. And then we're going to take another chunk for his body. still rolling it into a tight little ball. And then as we get done, we're going to make it more of a barrel shape. And stick him right there in the middle. Doesn't look like much yet, but we're going to get there. Then we're going to take an even smaller chunk, roll it into our tight little ball, roll it into a cylinder, and then separate it into two. These are going to become our legs, but by doing them at the same time, you'll make sure that they look the same. So there's one little leg. And we'll just attach it right there. And our second leg. Then we're going to take our paintbrush, knock most of the water off of it, and smooth those together so that they look more connected. You can also use the water to paint out any of the creases in the dough. Cute. Alright, now it's time for his arms. Another small piece, rolled real tight into a ball, then into a cylinder, and then separated in two so that they're proportionate. If it's starting to stick to your hands, you can put a little bit more of that flour on there, and that'll help it to roll off easier. Oh, that looks like a big arm, so we're going to take a little bit off of that. One on that side. And remember to take a little bit off of that side too, so that, again, they're the same size. One on that side. And then that water. Just smooth them in there. Alright, we can take those excess pieces from our arms to make his head, or you can, get another chunk if you didn't have to do that. Add a little bit more for his head. Make sure it's real tight, because again, when we get it to dry, we don't want any of those cracks to show up. Alright, that looks like he's pretty proportionate. And we'll put him right there. Now, one thing I did notice with this dough is it's a little bit heavier. So when I was doing the example one, the head kept falling off. So I stuck a little toothpick in there, and that helped it sit in there. And this was actually after it had started drying, which is why it's really loose like that. So if you did it while it was wet, and if you notice it's not going to stay on there, and you can do it while it's wet, and he'll dry perfect. Now we're going to take a piece for his hat. Again, we're going to start with that little ball, and then we're going to flatten it, kind of like a pancake. There we go. He's a slouchy little guy today. Then we're going to make a ball for the base, or the top part of his hat. And like if you see it's not sticking together, you can use a little dab of water, and that should help it stick. Now we're going to take a little piece for his beard. That's probably too big. That should be good. Bitty piece. For its nose. Now here's where we're also going to take our toothpick and go ahead and give him some texture on that beard. Then I'm going to take a little bit of water and smooth down that hat where we joined it. And then of course if you wanted to add eyebrows, a walking staff, you can even do some little shoes or a belt buckle for him. You could add a million different things to this little creature, because each one has its own story to tell. And our little garden clay gnome is finished. Now he will take a little bit of time to dry. When I was doing my example, I think it took a good 48 hours or 2 days to dry completely before I felt comfortable moving him. But you're all set. Then once he is dry, you can paint him or leave him as is and leave him hiding in different places and imagine all of the different stories he can tell.